We're back with a new mini-series now.
Indeed.
Indeed. We're going to be doing something for the next, month, maybe month and a half, called United States of Terror.
Indeed.
We're going to go to each place of the United States and pick out one of the most gruesome crimes we can find possible and talk about it.
Or just one of the most brutal that we can find.
Yeah. Well, of course, within
the
guidelines.
confines of YouTube.
Within guidelines, and of course, a few censorships and stuff will have to be made. Are you ready? Are you ready for the first one?
Indeed.
This file involves graphic homicide, cold-blooded dismemberment, and the forensic reconstruction of a multi-county crime scene. We're discussing the literal butchery of human beings at the hands of a quiet neighbor. Listener discretion is advised.
Interesting.
Welcome to High Frights, but in this case, the United States of Terror. When you think of the 1950s Alabama, you think of sweltering heat, screen door slamming, and a code of Southern hospitality that felt unbreakable. But in 1959, a woman named Viola Hyatt, or Hyatt, is it Hyatt or Hyatt?
Honestly, in this specific case, I go with Hyatt.
Yeah, I'm going to say Hyatt. I apologize if it's pronounced differently. But this woman was named Viola Hyatt. She broke more than just a code. She broke the bodies of two men with the cold perception of a farmhand prepping Sunday's dinner. She called herself the Axe Murderess. And she turned the rolling hills of the county into a graveyard of scattered remains.
Should be interesting.
Yep. I got the bowl. Well, you got the bowls ready before we start recording, so we're ready for gardening.
Indeed.
We're gonna need a little bit of gardening before these.
Fortunately, we don't really have too much for the stream, so this unfortunately might be the only garden we have.
I don't finish the whole thing, so it might be the second. I might be able to get two.
But that's not to finish the whole thing. Let's see how this goes.
Cheers.
Cheers.
If you got it, smoke it. We always gotta start with the coughing ASMR.
Don't do crazy.
Okay, well, let's get back to it. The archives reveal that a woman who proved that the most terrifying things in the South aren't just ghosts in the trees, but the lady next door with the axe in her hand. Now that we got the actual file open, let's begin.
A lady with an axe in her hand and a palm to be.
In June of 1959, the Alabama State Troopers were dealing with a jigsaw puzzle from hell. A motorist in Etowah County found a human torso dumped in the weeds. A few hours later, another torso appeared in St. Clair County. Over the following days, limbs were found discarded along highways in Clount County. For weeks, the victims were known only as Mr. X and Mr. Y. The investigators knew they were looking for a killer with a strong stomach and a sharp blade, but they were looking for a monster. They weren't looking for a 30-year-old woman who lived in a quiet, unassuming life on a family farm. The trial eventually went cold until police started looking into missing persons reports of two brothers, Emmett and Lee Harper. The brothers had been living in a small trailer on the Hyatt family property in a community called Rabbittown.
Rabbittown.
That's the actual name of the town. When investigators pulled up to the Hyatt farm, they didn't find a crime lord or a serial drifter. They found Viola. She was a shy, plain-spoken, and seemingly devoted to her elderly father. But as the police walked the grounds, the hospitality started to curdle. They found bloodstains in the dirt. They found a swallow pit, and they found a double-bit wood-splitting axe leaning against a sump that had seen far more than just oak and pine. While under investigation, Viola didn't scream or cry. She didn't claim she didn't claim a grand conspiracy. She simply just told the truth. She had taken her father's 12-gauge shotgun and shot both Harper boys in the face. And why? She claimed that they were bothering her. But the shooting
That's it. That's it.
that's it.
No elaboration. No talks of like fucking assault. No talks of like fucking violate. Just literally just this annoyed shit out of me.
Yeah, they annoyed me. They bothered me.
One dude was annoying me a little too much. Started talking, started gabbing a little too much. So I just had to pull out the double barrel. I had to get him to shut up.
Pretty much.
I turned a little tiny gaping mouth into a big gaping hole.
Jesus. But the shooting wasn't the terror of the case. The terror is what she did next. The bodies are easier to move and harder to identify. Viola took that heavy farm axe and methodically, thank you, dismembered the men. She loaded the pieces into the back of the truck and scattered them across 3 different counties, like she was sowing seeds of a nightmare. During the walkthrough of the farm, an investigator pointed to the blood-crusted axe and asked if that was the tool that she used. Viola looked at him with total indifference and said, and this is an actual quote of what she said, "That's where we chop wood and sometimes chicken necks." The trial was a sensation. The public didn't reconcile the image of this quiet Southern woman with the butcher of Rabbittown. There was no temporary insanity plea that could stick to someone so calm, so rhythmic, and so clinical. Viola was convicted of first-degree murder. In an era where death penalty was frequently used in Alabama, she escaped the chair, but was handed 2 life sentences. She became a legend in the Alabama prison system. A woman who spoke little but carried an aura of absolute jagged violence that followed her until death behind bars.
Oh, she died behind bars.
Yeah, she passed away behind bars. Didn't say what year, though, or anything like that. Just said behind bars. I'm guessing someone just kind of um, figure out what she did and kind of killed her for it. That's just a guess, though, from other things I've read about her.
Even then, I doubt that. Especially not to say it doesn't happen, but definitely not the fucking.
Yeah, maybe not
If
back
anything,
then.
fucking cheer her on.
Back then, probably.
That's why not even back then. But you know how much fucking credit you get probably in prison for fucking killing a motherfucker, let alone 2.
I was just saying because they were still kids when she killed them. Technically, they were minors.
Oh yeah, you weren't wrong.
That's why I'm maybe the prisoners in there also had something to do with it, because most of the time, yeah, they'll cheer you on, or not cheer you on, but they'll probably be like, "Oh, okay, cool, me too," or something. But when it comes to kids, that's a very, very, very big gray area, depending on where you are.
Depending on who you're talking to, I guess.
Yeah, it depends on who you're talking to as well. So again, that was Alabama. You ready for the next one?
Indeed.
So this file involves kidnapping, ransom extortion, and the methodical. Thank you. I don't know
Why do
why.
you keep adding a lull to it?
I don't know. And the methodical execution of a multi-year killing spree. We're discussing a predator who treated the entire United States as a hunting ground, and use his own blood to record his victims.
What?
We'll get to it. Listener discretion is advised. Most killers have like a zone, like a comfort area they feel the most in control in, right? But in 2012, Alaska authorities realized that they weren't just dealing with a local predator. They had stumbled upon Israel Keys. Now, Keys was a contractor, a father, and a neighbor. But he also was a ghost who traveled thousands of miles to kill strangers at random. He didn't just commit crimes, he prepared them for years in advance, burying kill kits across the county like time capsules of malice.
That's. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he planned. Damn, so he like legitimately planned out murders for like years on end.
Yep. Just because. Like, there was no legitimate reason for it.
Just felt like that.
Because he felt like. I have enough to do another one before this one.
I do not. So.
So that's just me. Okay. Well, if you got it, smoke it. Cheers. I'm trying to get it to stop burning.
It is keep on top, so you would.
I'm very aware. Okay. So there we go. Jesus. Oof. So that's going to hit you like a freight train, so I apologize in advance. So we're starting off on February 1st, 2012. 18-year-old Samantha Keoning was finishing her shift at a roadside espresso stand in Anchorage, Alaska. Surveillance footage captures a moment where a man in a mask climbed through the window, and in a matter of seconds, Samantha was gone. For weeks, the city was on edge. A ransom note appeared demanding $30,000, and it came with a photo of Samantha holding a recent newspaper proving that she was, and I say this with quotations, alive.
Hey.
Her family frantically deposited money into her account, and the kidnapper began a cross-county trek, withdrawing cash from ATMs in Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas.
That was spending money.
The FBI was watching those ATMs. They spotted the pattern and a rental car, a white Ford Focus. On March 13th, 2012, police in Lufkin, Texas pulled over a car for a minor speeding violation. But inside was Israel Keys, and along with him, they found Samantha's ID, her cell phone, and a disguise. But the real horror started in the interrogation room. You see, Keys wasn't just a desperate killer, he was a professional. He eventually confessed to Samantha's murder, admitting that he had killed her the day after her abduction, then frozen her body in a sled while he went on a pre-booked family cruise. So the proof of life photo was taken because he applied makeup to her corpse and sewed her eyes open with a fishing line to make her look awake.
And that somehow works?
It somehow worked. I have no idea. Now the investigators dig deeper. Keys reveals the terrifying mythology. He would fly to a random city, rent a car, and drive hundreds of miles to dig up kill kits he buried years prior. These watertight buckets contain things like handguns, silencers, zip ties, and chemicals to destroy evidence. He told the FBI that he chose his victims completely at random, no profile, no connection, no motive, other than the rush. He admitted to murdering a couple in Vermont, Bill and Lorraine Courier, while using a kit he had hidden 2 years prior. He'd claimed to have killed less than a dozen people across the United States, including a victim in New York and several across Washington state. In on December in December of 2012, while awaiting trial at the Anchorage jail cell, Israel Keys took his own life. But he left one final piece of evidence behind. Under his bed, investigators found 11 skulls drawn in his own blood. The FBI believes that those 11 skulls represent his total victim count, and to this day, only 3 of those victims were definitely identified. Keys died taking the locations of the other 8 to his grave, leaving a trail of kill kits still potentially buried beneath the soil of the lower 48. That one just sent chills up my spine.
Yeah, that just felt like someone who's desperately trying to be like the next Zodiac killer.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he took pointers from the Zodiac.
Feels like it. All his name was like some fucking random sets of like fucking leaving clues and shit for law enforcement, and yeah, that would have made sense.
Pretty
Still,
much.
that shit is. Oh my God.
We are sponsored by hydration. Please drink your water if you can. Because I ended up taking so many gardenings that once because I wouldn't stop burning. I'm probably going to skip this gardening for this one.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next case, we are now moving to Arizona. This file involves domestic annihilation, child murder, arson, and an active, decades-long manhunt. We're discussing the violent execution of a family that the psychological profile of a man who wiped out his entire world rather than face a divorce. Listener discretion is mandatory on this one.
Hold on, what?
Hmm?
Go through all that just to avoid a fucking divorce?
I guess he. This is gonna be a horrible joke,
What is it?
but this
What
was
did
a
he
joke.
forget to sign a prenup?
I don't know what happened. He's
Well, we
like,
gonna figure it out.
you're gonna take the kids away from me. I'm gonna take you and the kids.
Bitch, you taking my house? Bitch, I'm taking your mortality. How do you feel?
Oh god, we're going to hell.
That was just like,
So when we think of the Arizona desert, we like to think of heat, survival, and wide open spaces where a person can just disappear. But in April of 2001, a wealthy suburb of Scottsdale learned that the most dangerous predators don't live out in the canyons, but they sleep right down the hall. Robert William Fisher was a Navy veteran, a respiratory therapist, and a respected churchgoer. But beneath the surface, he was a deeply controlling narcissist who decided that if he couldn't have his family, no one could. And then he simply vanished into thin air. To the outside world, the Fishers lived the American dream. Robert and Mary had been married for over a decade and had 2 beautiful children, 12-year-old Brittany and 10-year-old Bobby. Robert was an avid outdoorsman, a hunter who knew the rugged Arizona wilderness like the back of his hand. But inside the walls of their Scottsdale home, the marriage was a war zone. Robert was fiercely controlling. He had a deep-seated fear of abandonment stemming down from his own parents' divorce, and he swore that he would never let his family split up. By spring of 2001, Mary had finally had enough. She was preparing to leave him. Robert, pushed to the edge of his ultimate fear, decided to take absolute control the only way he knew how. On the morning of April 10th, 2001, at 8:42 a.m., the quiet Scottsdale neighborhood was violently shaken by a massive explosion. The Fisher home erupted in a fireball, collapsing the roof and blowing out the windows for blocks. When firefighters finally battled through the flames and pulled out the bodies from the rubble, everyone assuming it was a tragic gas leak. But the medical examiners found something else. The fire didn't kill the Fisher family. Mary had been shot in the back of her head and her throat had been slashed. Both Brittany and Bobby had their throats slit from ear to ear.
Jeez.
Robert had murdered his family in cold blood, severed the house's natural gas line, and poured accelerant onto the floor, leaving a single candle burning. As the gas filled the house, it eventually reached the flame, obliterating the crime scene hours after he had already slipped away in Mary's Mary's Toyota 4Runner. Sorry. 10 days later, hikers in the rugged, unforgiving treachery of the Tonto National Forest stumbled upon a vehicle hidden among the pines. It was Mary's 4Runner. Outside the SUV, guarding the doors, was the family dog Blue. A massive search operation descended on the forest. SWAT teams, helicopters, and tracking dogs scorched the caves and canyons. They found the dog and they found the car, but they didn't find Robert Fisher himself. As a seasoned survivalist and hunter, Fisher knew how to navigate the wilderness. He knew the deep, uncharted cave systems in the area. Now, the question was, did he go into the forest to die by his own hand in a place where he would never be found? Or did he use the treachery as a staging ground to slip away and start a new life?
What?
Fisher was placed on the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives list, where he remained for 20 years. Sightings poured in from all over the world, starting from Canada to Florida to even Guatemala. The FBI reached to age process photos showing what Fisher might look like with a beard and gray hair or even a different jawline entirely. Despite the massive award and decades of searching, the trail remained entirely cold. In 2021, the FBI finally removed him from the top of the 10 list because the active leads had gone completely dried up, though he does remain a wanted man. He is the ultimate family annihilator, a man who committed an unspeakable, cowardly act of violence and managed to outsmart the greatest law enforcement apparatus in the world. And he is still, keep in mind, he is still a wanted man to this day. They are still actively looking for this guy. If he was 30 in 2001, he'd probably be in like his 60s now.
That's what I'm saying. More than 60s, probably like 50s.
Like 50s to 60s, roughly.
Sure, fair enough.
We have one more case for the night, and I am probably gonna try to guide in for this one.
Yeah, fair enough.
I'm gonna attempt to do it and not pass out.
This should be-
Cheers. I just got really bad cotton mouth. Oh boy. Okay. That one wasn't that bad. So this one is the last one of the night, but this one's also the one with the most trigger warnings. So please listen carefully for a second.
Indeed.
This file involves systematic family annihilation, child murder, incest, and a mass shooting.
Oh, so we had right into the nitty gritty here. Oh boy.
We're discussing the methodological execution of six.
Methodical.
We're discussing the methodical execution of 16 people, 14 of whom were the killer's own blood. This is one of the most disturbing cases in American history, so listener discretion is not only strongly advised, but mandatory.
Deeply mandatory.
The holidays are supposed to be a time of homecoming, a time when families gather around the fire, share meals, and exchange gifts.
What's up?
But in December of 1987, deep in the Ozark foothills of Dover, Arkansas, homecoming meant something else entirely. For the family of Ronald Gene Simmons, coming home for Christmas meant walking into a slaughterhouse. Simmons didn't just snap, he planned for the methodical assembly line execution of his entire bloodline, followed by a final violent farewell tour through the town. Now, Ronald Gene Simmons was a retired Air Force Master Sergeant who treated his family like, uh, like a penal colony.
What?
Like a penal colony.
That's a new one for me.
In 1981, after running from accusations of incest with his teenage daughter, Sheila, he moved his wife and children to a ramshackle, remote property in Arkansas known as Mockingbird Hill. Simmons demanded absolute obedience. He isolated his family, controlled their money and finances, their movements, and even their mail. He had built a cinder block wall around his own heart and his dark obsession with Sheila, who eventually had a child with him, festered.
Oh god.
But as the kids grew up, some managed to escape the compound, getting married and starting their own lives. Simmons seen this as the ultimate betrayal. If he couldn't control his family, he was going to erase them. The nightmare began on December 22nd, 1987. Simmons started with the family members still living at home. He shot his wife and eldest son and methodically strangled his three youngest children. Drowning one in a rain barrel, he dumped their bodies in a makeshift grave he had dug days before, covering them in barbed wire and parked a junked car over the dirt. But he wasn't done. He waited in the empty, quiet house. And over the next few days, his adult children and their families arrived for a Christmas holiday, completely unaware of the horrors beneath the soil. As each group arrived, Simmons greeted them, separated them, and murdered them. He strangled his daughter Sheila and her husband. He shot the others. He even murdered his own grandchildren, including the child he had fathered with Sheila. For days, he lived in that house surrounded by the bodies of 14 family members, drinking beer and watching television. But on the morning of December 28th, the house on Mockingbird Hill grew silent. Simmons loaded a .22 caliber pistol, drove into a nearby town of Russellville, and went to work. He didn't shoot at random. He targeted people he believed had slighted him. He walked into a law office and killed a receptionist who had who had spurned his advances. He went to a local oil company and shot his former boss. He hit a convenience store and a woodline company, wounding several others. Finally, he sat down in an office, placed the gun on his desk, and waited for the police. When they arrived, he simply surrendered. He offered no resilience. His dark work was done. When the police finally went to Mockingbird Hill to notify his family of his arrest, they uncovered the true scale of the horror. It was the worst mass murder in Arkansas history. In a rare move for a mass killer, Simmons refused all legal appeals. He pleaded guilty, fully cooperated, and explicitly asked the judge for the death penalty, stating that the appeal would be an insult to his victims. And he got his wish. Less than 3 years later, in the summer of 1990, the state of Arkansas executed him by lethal injection. The man who dedicated every aspect of his family's life managed to dedicate his own death too. That's the end of that one.
Yeah, that one was rough.
4 states, 4 nightmares, and a trail of blood that stretches from the humid woods of Alabama to the frozen soil of Alaska, down through the dirt of the Arizonian desert, and into the quiet hills of Arkansas. We've looked into the eyes of the axe murderess, tracked down the ghost of the Tonto National Forest, unearthed the kill kits of the cross-country predator, and even stood at the gates of a Christmas homecoming that turned into a massacre. And now we're going to do a little bit of gentle parenting and say, what have we learned today?
To not be a murderer?
We've learned that the terror doesn't have a specific zip code. It doesn't matter about the weather or the landscape. It lives in the quiet gaps between the things that we think we know about our neighbors, our parents, and our partners. It thrives in the shadows of the American dream, waiting for the moment of desperation, a flicker of narcissism, or a cold, calculated plan to catch fire. Now, though we've only covered 4 states today, the map of the country is very vast. There's still 46 others that's still waiting in the dark. 46 more stories of the moments where the United States became the United States of terror. And we're going to walk through every single one of them. We're going to name the victims, study the monsters, and we're going to try to find the meaning of the wreckage they left behind.
In other words, we're going to get into 10 times more fucked up shit than we probably already got into.
Yay!
Yeah!
We're being traumatized, so you don't have to pay therapy bills. We do.
Indeed. We gotta research the shit.
Thank you for riding shotgun through the first leg of this journey. This concludes our open archive. Now take a breath, lock your doors, and check in on the people you love. The world is a beautiful place, but it does have teeth. And it's always better to see them coming.
Indeed. Always.
Now, since it is like 1 in the morning, we are going to get some shut eye. So, good night. Bye.